It was just an ordinary day in America, but it quickly became a day of tragedy and heroism that many of us will never forget. At 8:46 a.m., our nation was brought to a standstill as word spread that American Airlines Flight 11 had been hijacked and flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. A few minutes later, as Americans gathered around the television to view the smoking tower, we watched in horror as United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower in an orange cloud of fire and smoke. America was under attack. As the shock of these events began to sink into our hearts, first responders were already moving to save the lives of as many as possible. While hundreds ran from the scene to safety, these brave police, firefighters, and EMTs ran to the burning buildings to do what they were called to do, no matter what the cost. But it wasn't over. At 9:37, a third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. 22 minutes later, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed, engulfing blocks of Manhattan in a thick cloud of smoke and debris. The North Tower would soon follow, but not before a fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed into an open field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as the courageous passengers and crew stormed the cockpit and gave their own lives to thwart yet another attack. The images of that horrific day are emblazoned on the minds of all those who saw them. The work of the first responders on that day and the days that followed still stands as a stirring example of courage and sacrifice. September 11th, 2001, is a day we can never forget, and it is a day we must never forget. We must never forget the 2,977 Americans we lost that day. We must never forget the families who still grieve their loss. And we must never forget the brave men and women who saved the lives of so many through those hours of crisis, some even at the cost of their life. They are heroes, and we must never forget their sacrifice. But heroes are not just those who step into a rare moment of national crisis in some far-off place. Heroes are also those of you who step into the everyday moments of personal crisis right here in our community. We call you first responders because you often are the first to be there to calm and comfort, to stabilize and protect, to confront danger and preserve life. You are our first responders, our heroes, and we will never forget your service.
On January 29th, my husband suffered a cardiac arrest. When the EMTs arrived at our home that evening, it took them about 20 to 30 minutes to get his heart beating again. Once they got a pulse, they rushed him to the trauma center at Froedtert, where another team of medical professionals took over his care. And as I think back on that evening, from the man that answered my 911 call and explained to me how to do chest compressions on my husband, to the men that arrived at our home that evening to get his heart beating again, and to the men and women at the trauma center at Froedtert, and to all the other medical professionals that were involved in his care. My husband is alive today.
My favorite Tender for restaurant or Papa.
I was about 7 or 8 when one day I was shopping with my mom and she said she wasn't feeling well and needed to sit down. So we sat down on a bench, and as soon as we sat down, she began to have a seizure. I began to look for somebody that could help me, and when I found somebody, they called 911, and in a matter of minutes, an EMT arrived and was able to help my mom. And ever since then, I've been so thankful for the men and women who are always there to answer the call for those who need it.
In the past, I remember how comforting it was just knowing that they were there to help when they were needed the most. Thank you for being there.
Thank you for saving my life and my brother's life multiple times from our allergic reactions.
Sometimes I see fire trucks and police cars in my neighborhood. I'm glad when I see them because I know that they're keeping my neighborhood safe.
Last summer, we had quite a scare when my 2-year-old suddenly went missing from our backyard. We had no idea where he was, and I can still remember that feeling of panic. And we ended up calling the police, and thankfully, before they even got there, we found him safe and sound. But I was just so thankful for their quick response, and the officers who came were so kind and understanding. They got a picture with my kids and talked to us for a while, and I'll just never forget their kindness on that very stressful day.
Earlier this year, we were caught in the middle of a police chase and the criminal hit our car. The police were right there and they were able to secure the criminal in his car so we could get away quickly. And a couple of days later, the sergeant who ran the chase came to our house to explain what happened and said that he was sorry that we were caught in the middle. I'm just so thankful for the quick thinking, kindness, and carefulness of the officers to keep us safe.
I'm so thankful for those who are willing to risk their own comfort, their safety, their own lives for people who they don't even know. I have only the greatest respect and appreciation for our first responders who are willing to do so.
My respect for first responders and love for them changed in 2014 when my 3-year-old son, Jake, fell out of a second-story window, 18 feet to the ground below. The first responders, fire and rescue, police, and the EMTs all showed up and took care of Jake. He had to be life-flighted to a hospital where there was a team of additional responders waiting for him to arrive. The responders not only helped Jake, but they were also a comfort to us as we had to go through this traumatic event. Ever since that event, we have that newfound respect and love for all first responders and everything that they do for us each day.
My great-granddaddy was a firefighter and constantly put his life on the line to help others. I'm thankful for every first responder and for their families who are willing to make that same sacrifice.
I have 2 little boys, and in a world like ours, I am very thankful for men and women who are still willing to protect them. You run into adversity when the natural reaction is to run away. Thank you.
Thank you, ambulance people, for saving my brother's life.
A couple of years ago, we had some things stolen from a vehicle right in our driveway one night. My wife wanted me to go to the police, but I thought, they don't have time for this. Finally, I went to satisfy her and sat down with a police officer there who was very kind. I asked him the question point blank, is this the kind of thing that you want us to come to you with? And he said, you know, if you're having to ask that question, then we want you to come. In that moment, I learned that the Menominee Falls Police weren't too busy for me. And I really appreciated that.
I thank God for all our first responders and the wonderful job they do in our communities and in our country. You all do jobs that so many don't want to do, and I am so grateful for your sacrificial service.
I have friends and family that are first responders, and I know you don't see yourselves as being heroes. But to those of us who aren't, we are forever grateful for all that you do to keep us safe in our communities.
You truly are my heroes. And it's because of your just care and compassion and desire to save lives. He is alive today. Thank you for all that you've done.